This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Welcome to this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Michael Long. Our guest today is Dr. Rankin from the School of Business Administration. Thanks for coming to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
What type of graduate portfolio or exit exam is required of graduates in the School of Business Administration?
The main exam or assessment, it's really called assessment these days to try to assess what the students are learning, is the Major Field Achievement Test. We call it the MFAT. And students take that as part of the Management Strategy and Policy course their senior year, either their last or next to their last semester. And it covers basic understanding of accounting, economics, finance, computer information systems, management, marketing, legal environment of business. And in that way, we're able to measure how our students are acquiring business knowledge and compare it to a national standard. So we've been very pleased with the results of that exam, and the students perform well compared to national standards.
What qualities do you want in SAU Business Administration graduates to successfully compete against other graduates from other universities?
Well, first of all, our students need to have technical knowledge. If you're an accountant, obviously you need to understand how the accounting process works. If you're a computer information systems graduate, you need to know how that system works. But beyond that, I think you need good communication skills. Our students need to be able to communicate what they've learned and what they know. And I think business and industry and government also is looking for communication skills. Two more things that we'd like to see our students have too are leadership skills and abilities, and also the ability to work as teams. So teamwork is another area that we really try to stress, and you've seen that in some of your classes where you have team projects. And of course, another thing we like to do is we'd like for our students to do all of that within an ethical context so that they leave the Southern Arkansas University School of Business understanding that good business is good business. They need to be ethical. They need to do things in the business world that are honest and right.
All right. What ways here at the Southern Arkansas University School of Business Administration do you guys stress those ethics? Do you have a class or?
We do not have a class. Some universities do. They'll have a class, it'll call it business ethics. Every business student will take it. What we try to do is integrate ethics into our business core curriculum and into each major. For instance, in investments, we talk about insider trading. How that if you have material inside information, you should not be trading in that stock because in a sense you are defrauding the people that you are trading the stock with. You have the information, they don't have that information. In addition to that, we have Good Business, Good Business Week, which is a whole week that we emphasize business ethics, and we have a special speaker come in to speak to all the students, and we ask every faculty member to have a special ethics emphasis in their class that week.
The University of Central Arkansas is currently looking for a dean for its College of Business. As a dean, what type of leader should UCA look for?
Well, I think that a business dean has to wear a lot of hats these days. Most business deans probably teach at least one class, so they need to be competent in the classroom and be in touch with students. They also have to interface with central administration. They have to work with accrediting agencies. They're involved in fundraising activities through financial development. And they also have to interact with the business community. So you're really looking for a general all-round business type leader who is interested in academia. And so you wear a lot of hats, but on the other hand, it's a lot of fun. And I think that that's what UCA will be looking for, is a well-rounded individual who's specifically interested in higher education and academia. But I think every dean also needs to have that real interest in a business discipline, like accounting or economics, finance, and so forth.
All right. What is your interest in that discipline?
Well, finance and economics are the two areas. I have a major in finance, starting at the master's level and working up in a doctorate, and also a field in macroeconomics. And those two areas sort of work together. Investments, advanced financial management, and also macroeconomics, how the economy grows, inflation, unemployment, the Federal Reserve System. So I think that's it's exciting to love a discipline and to enjoy it, and then hopefully you can bring that into the classroom and get your students excited about it.
When the School of Business Administration has a faculty opening, what traits are you looking for in a possible SAU professor?
One of the most important things we look for is teaching ability, and not only teaching ability, but teaching enthusiasm. We think that teaching excellence is probably the most important thing a faculty member, quality a faculty member can bring to SAU. So we'd like for that faculty member to be able to demonstrate to us and our students. In fact, they actually have to conduct a teaching class with faculty and students in the audience. And so we asked them to come in and teach us something. And so from that, we asked the students and the faculty to give us their feedback. Now, faculty members also have to be able to they have to write articles, they have to be willing to do some amount of research, academic inquiry, but certainly teaching excellence for an institution like ours is still the #1 quality.
How has business instructing changed since you were an undergraduate?
Oh, it's changed a lot. I think that there's a lot more technology involved. As you know, as a computer information systems major, there's so much more technology now involved with the internet, with wireless communications, with the network systems that are set up in colleges and universities. Years ago, you had to go over to the computer center and put in punch cards, and now you can access that technology all around the world from a desktop machine in your dormitory or in the computer lab. Teachers are using more computers in the classroom, more video projection equipment in the classroom, and through that you can actually access the internet and you can bring in effect the whole world into your classroom. So I think there's more being demanded of us as faculty members in terms of technology, but it's exciting, it's fun.
Right. Earlier you spoke of professors with enthusiasm when you look for those qualities. How do you inject enthusiasm into the course material here at SAU?
I think the first thing a faculty member has to be is they have to be excited about it themselves. You know yourself as you see faculty members. Those faculty members who really are excited about their discipline just naturally inject enthusiasm. It comes naturally. They love the material, like Dr. Horton loves economics. So when he gets into the classroom, he's going to project enthusiasm about economics. So to me, that's the first thing. The second thing is they really have to be excited about the process of education. They have to be excited about taking students such as yourself and seeing students like you grow in their knowledge of the material. That has to be important to them. And I think if you have those two things, excitement about the discipline and excitement about the process of education, when that faculty member walks into the classroom, something magic happens and you have a great hour. And you look at your watch and you say, my goodness, it's over.
It's over with, yeah. What long-range goals do you have in mind for the School of Business and Administration?
We are really embarking on a lot of exciting initiatives. One thing we talked about just a few minutes ago is the need to have more field trips for our students, where every student in every discipline has at least the opportunity to take a field trip. Like our finance students have been to New York City, and our marketing students have been to Chicago, and we're planning other trips. We want our students to have as much interaction with the business community as possible. We've also really strengthened our internship program. And I think that that's very important for a student, not just to go to classroom and get book knowledge, but to combine that with the knowledge of the real world, to go places he or she has never been before, and to interact with business or to have an internship. Long range, we certainly want to increase the size of the School of Business. We have 544 business majors. We have about 85 agriculture business majors who come here for 30 hours of classes in the School of Business. We'd like to see more technology involved in our business programs. We would certainly like to see an expansion of our computing capability. Something else is our distance learning. I'd love to come into a classroom like this and do interactive distance education all across the state of Arkansas and maybe even beyond. So there are a lot of exciting opportunities out there, but they're challenging too.
Right. Freshman enrollment's up quite a bit this semester. How is that increase affecting the School of Business Administration enrollment?
We had an 11% increase in overall business enrollment this fall. The fall before, we had a 20% increase in enrollment. So we've got something like a 32% increase in enrollment in business students since the fall 2 years ago. That's kind of exciting. Now, part of that is coming, I think, because the School of Business has a good reputation. Part of it's coming from our effort to advise, because, if you advise students well and they enjoy the experience here, they go back to their hometown and say, hey, why don't you come to SAU? They've got a good program. The faculty treat us well. We're excited about what's going on. And we've done a lot more recruiting. We have really stepped up our level of interaction with potential business students. Contacted them a lot more often during their senior year.
How's SAU using their website, the School of Business website that is, to recruit and hold retention for the students here?
You know, it's really exciting. As you well know, the internet is becoming more the method of communication of choice for students. High school students now are sort of coming up with the computer. So we have really revamped our website. I think it looks generally very good. Dr. Osmi Ahmad, who's Associate Professor of Management here, is our webmaster. And so he has gone in and worked on that along with Lana Reed, who is our Director of Student Recruiting and Financial Development here in the School of Business. And they've worked together, and I think they've done a marvelous job. So we hope when a student comes in and accesses our business school website, they're excited about what they see. They can click, find out who the faculty are, look at the student organizations, and look at the curriculum. And I think more and more you're going to see recruiting done through the internet.
You've been a college professor for more than 30 years. How much longer are you planning to teach here at SAU?
They don't have any plans in that direction. I'm having a great time. This is, in many ways, the best of times here at SAU. The university is growing, and certainly the School of Business is growing. I'm very pleased with that. The faculty are excited about the future, and so I'm just thoroughly enjoying and have no plans other than to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right. As you said, the School of Business is growing. When the new School of Business Administration building was built, it was originally planned to have a 300-seat auditorium. What happened to that auditorium, and does the School of Business Administration have any plans to add that on anytime soon?
That was part of the original plan, and honestly it was cut because of cost overrun. It just didn't, there was about a $4.5 million building at that time, and so it was going to run significantly over the budget, so they just cut that out. Have no immediate plans to add that back. It certainly would be nice, and generally things like that might come through a private contribution. Someone that really got interested in that might be willing to make a private contribution toward it, might allow us to do something like that. Okay. It's probably unlikely we would get a state appropriation for it in the near future.
Okay. What contributions do you feel you've made to the field of higher education?
Well, I've enjoyed spending most of my life teaching in a public institution of higher education. And it's very gratifying to have students come in after they've been out in the real world for 5, 10, or 15 years and recount some kind of experience they had here with the School of Business and say that it was very beneficial to them. I had a student in my office the other day who was talking about her experience, her whole experience here, and she said, "This institution has changed my life." Well, that's what you like to hear. You know, a student that comes in and says, "This institution has changed my life." So if we weren't here, I know a lot of students would not have their 4-year degrees or their master's degree. I know a lot of students would not have had the opportunities that they've had. So to me, the contribution that I and fellow faculty and staff and administration make is through the lives of those students. And you hope that they take what we impart and share with them, take it out, and make a better life.
How will the School of Business Administration curriculum evolve over the next generation?
That's a good question. We have to have a curriculum that's dynamic. In other words, you can't have a curriculum that just stays the same for 5, 10 years at a time. It has to be dynamic. The Cisco program is a classic example where we added the Cisco certification program, then we had to go in and change the curriculum to meet that. We're looking at our business core curriculum now. We're looking at some of the courses in our major now. What about e-commerce? How do you build that into the curriculum? Do you try to integrate it into the business core curriculum, or do you have a separate e-commerce class? How do you do that? Those are the questions we have to ask ourselves, but we have to do it every year. We can't just wait and every 2 or 3 years do it. We have to do it every year. It's what we call continuous improvement. So we have to see the trends, and we have to ask business what they want. We have to ask students what their aspirations are. We have to involve the faculty, and in that process we have a curriculum that changes. It's kind of a dynamic entity, and it changes constantly.
Well, you were talking about the Cisco program. I'm involved in that, and I'm on my way to getting a CCNA, hopefully. Is the School of Business Administration planning to expand that curriculum out to semesters 5 and 6 and allow the CCNA certification receivers to come back and get a CCNP certification?
The answer to that is we are planning to go to the CCNP, and some of our faculty will be going for training this summer. The faculty themselves have to work their way up this scale in terms of their training. And so we've just now implemented the CCNA, and the network professional is the next step in the process. It may take us a year or so to get that in, but we're certainly moving it, and the first step will be this summer with the training of the faculty. And
earlier you were speaking about the internships here at the School of Business Administration. You recently dedicated the virtual internship lab for the Cardinal Healthcare upstairs. Can you give us some details on that program?
That's, we call it a virtual internship, obviously, and one of the reasons is it's an internship with a company in Ohio, and yet the students are here. And so they're connected to Cardinal Health through the T1 lines. And so they're actually become employees as interns of Cardinal Health right here on our campus on the third floor of the business building. We have a lab that's been set up by Cardinal Health. We dedicated it just a few weeks ago, had Kathy White, the Chief Information Officer of Cardinal Health, down to help dedicate that. So these students are now actually working as interns with Cardinal Health right here in Magnolia, Arkansas. It's an incredible program. It's a cutting-edge program. It's a new program, although only one other university in the state, Arkansas State University, is involved with it. We're really excited about it. It offers opportunities to our students they could never get any other way except through technology.
How many students are currently involved in that program?
I believe there are 5 right now that are interns with Cardinal Health at the present time. And by the way, this program actually took several of the interns out to actual locations this summer. So they had an opportunity not only to work here, but to go to various real locations during the summer to work for Cardinal Health.
You introduced Governor Mike Huckabee this week at an SAU town meeting. How does his economic philosophy differ from that of former governors of Bill Clinton and Jim Guy Tucker?
One of the big things is, I think, is tax policy. In the past, it seems like that we might have said as a state, well, we need some money here, so we'll go tax something, find something to tax. I think Governor Huckabee has said, no, let's have a coordinated tax policy. And one of the things that he did, I think, that was really dramatic is the indexing of the Arkansas state income tax rates. Since 1997, the income tax brackets in Arkansas have been indexed, which means that when inflation goes up, the brackets move up. In the past, if you got a raise that was just equal to inflation, you moved up into a higher tax bracket, you paid a higher tax. But you weren't making any more real money because inflation had gone up. So it basically was an automatic tax increase that was created by the tax bracket creep. And when you eliminate that, you eliminate those automatic tax increases that occur. Also, we find that our tax rate is 7%, which is one of the highest of any of our border states. And that's an area that I think we need to look at. Capital gains tax rate is another one, because we find that if you have a high capital gains tax rate, that people in Arkansas might say, well, if I'll just change my residency to one of these states that doesn't have a capital gains tax, I'll escape the capital gains tax. Well, that may be the case, but they may take their resources with them and take them out of Arkansas. So I think the governor has tried to reduce the burden on lower income Arkansans by raising the standard deduction and meaning that lower income Arkansans don't start paying income tax until a higher level. To me, that's very important. I really don't think people who are at the lower income levels should be paying income tax of any sort, state or federal.
How would the state economy benefit or be harmed by some of the proposed amendments on the November ballot?
Most of those amendments are not probably directly related to the state economy, with the exception, they're more related maybe to state finance, particularly Amendment 4, which would eliminate the sales tax on used goods, would reduce the income of higher education's higher institution rather dramatically, $111 million for education as such. So that obviously would impact state government very heavily. The initiated Act 1 that deals with the chart plan certainly has some economic impacts with regard to educational research, to medical research, and things of that nature. There's also an amendment on the ballot that allows municipalities and counties to do some leasing on a little bit of a longer-term basis that may have some economic impacts. But probably the biggest one is the Amendment 4, which has an impact on state finance and on educational finance. That's probably the major one, and I think that's the one that's probably going to draw that and the chart plan or tobacco settlement resource probably going to draw the most interest.
With the presidential election right around the corner, how do you evaluate the economic plans of Governor Bush and Vice President Gore?
Well, you may know I'm a big fan of not allowing federal government to get too large. I think we send more money to Washington than we should. I think government is more efficient when it's closer to home. It's like money is spent more efficiently in Magnolia probably than it is at higher levels of government, because if you see something going on that's inefficient, you can go catch the mayor, or you can talk to the city council. Even in Arkansas, you can see your state representative or your state senator, or you could have visited with the governor here on Tuesday. But when you move up to the federal level, it's really hard to make changes. So I think we're shipping too much money to the federal government. Actually, the projections are, nobody knows if this is actually going to happen, but the projection is a $4.56 trillion surplus over the next 10 years. That's an awful lot of money. I think if the federal government has that much money available, some of that should come back in the form of tax cuts. A lot of it, I think, should go to people at the lower income of the latter level, so that they will not be paying federal income taxes. And I think the Bush plan probably speaks more to that than the Gore plan. I think Governor Bush probably is a little more oriented toward more control at the state and local level, whereas Mr. Gore more oriented toward the federal level.
Critique the economic policy of President Clinton's administration.
President Clinton has been very fortunate. He stepped on the economic train as it was really roaring out of the station back when he was elected and stepped into office in January of 1993. The economic growth had started in the spring of 1991 when George Bush was still president. It started growing in 1991, gathered in 1992. So by the time the election was held in the fall of 1992, the economy was really roaring out of the blocks. So Mr. Clinton's been very fortunate. He stepped onto the train. It was roaring out. It's been going for 8 years. Part of that is because of Alan Greenspan, the chairman of the Federal Reserve System. He has done a masterful job of trying to keep inflation low and keep the economy moving and expanding. Probably the biggest positive thing I think the Clinton administration has done, and I'm much a supporter of, is free trade with NAFTA. I thought the North American Free Trade Agreement was a positive thing and a positive step. Beyond that, there have been some tax increases and so forth, but probably not a lot on the economic front, simply because the economy was in good shape to start with, and it's continued its expansion. I expect we're going to have an expansion for several more years yet.
Which national economics do you admire and why?
National economist? I'd have to say Milton Friedman is my number one role model. Milton Friedman won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1979. He was an advisor to the Reagan administration, and the economy was really in bad shape. Everybody would agree in the late 70s. Ronald Reagan came in with a program basically to cut taxes, try to get the economy rolling, control inflation, in which he was successful, bring interest rates down. Milton Friedman was an important part of that advice. He did an excellent job. So if I had to name one person, I think it's been probably the most influential economist in the latter part of the 20th century, I'd have to say Milton Friedman. Outstanding gentleman. Still active, by the way.
Have you ever considered running for political office?
I did. Almost ran back in 1982 for Congress. Came close and didn't do it, but I certainly thought of it because I've been interested in national economic policy for a long time, and came close to running, just didn't do it. You know how those things are.
Does the constant coverage of the stock market on CBNC or CNN have a positive or negative effect on the financial speculation?
I'd have to say it's overall positive, but obviously you have a lot of emphasis on hectic trading, day trading, computer trading, things of that nature. And I remind my students in investments class that you really have to be careful about just feverish trading, trading in and out of stocks, that a lot of times about all that can do is give you a headache and generate a lot of commissions, but it won't necessarily in the long run grant you the greatest long run profit. So I'd say I love the financial information because I think that causes people to think about it, but it may stimulate a few people maybe to become more active traders than it's really good for them.
Well, what do you see the future holding for the School of Business Administration here at SAU?
Well, I think we have a very bright future. We have a beautiful facility here on the campus. We have an outstanding faculty and staff. I'm really proud of our students. They do an excellent job. They're getting out, graduating, and doing marvelous things, going on to graduate school, starting their own businesses, moving up in corporate hierarchies across the country. I think that we have a real role to play in South Arkansas, in particular in this whole region. And one of those areas is economic development. I think that this School of Business and this university has a tremendous role to play in the economic development and educational development of this whole region. So I look forward into maximizing our impact on this region. I think it's really significant now. I think it can be more in the future.
Well, Dr. Rankin, I'd like to thank you for coming for the show today. We've been visiting with Dr. David Rankin, Dean of the School of Business Administration here at Southern Arkansas University. Thanks for watching.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.